Hey, Jayden, how important is it for you and your senior classmates to play well and have a great win against Air Force at home Saturday?
Hey Scott, it's a pretty big deal to get a win Saturday. Um, nobody in my senior class has a CIC trophy, so that would just be the first step to get in that. And I think every game to us is very valuable, because each game is one game down to when our Navy football career will be over. So especially this game, with it being another service academy and a chance to, win the CIC trophy like none of us have. It's a pretty big deal.
Is there a different feel in practice on the yard, especially when you have a home game the week when you're playing Air Force?
Yes. So in Bancroft, a lot of the plebes, they do a lot of extracurricular stuff and you know cause a mess up in there. But for us, we're just kind of more locked in than I feel like usual. Like me, I'm watching much more film because Air Force they do a lot of different things, and um, we just treat this game differently, and everybody's a little bit more serious when it comes to this game.
What have you seen from Air Force? We all know that they have an undefeated record so far this season. What have you seen on film from them?
They show a lot of defenses. Um, they're physical, fast, um, and they play really hard. And they're well coached, so they're really good defensively, and it'll be a good challenge Saturday.
Thanks a lot, Jayden. Good luck.
Thanks, Scott.
Dean.
Hey, Jane, you guys coming off a couple wins going into this game, how much momentum do you think you have, and just how important is that to be able to go into a game like this with maybe some confidence?
Yeah, how's it going? Winning games, it builds lot of confidence in the players themselves. You find out things that you maybe think you didn't could do before, and you're like, okay, and we've been there before. I think when we were up on teams early, like Memphis and USF, we were kind of like, oh, like shocked that we were doing it. And the thing is, we prepare for that. We practice like that to, have success. So I think, having some wins and having some momentum is good for us because it allows us to know, like, we're able to, do these things. It's just, how can we get better so that we can, do the things that we're doing to win consistently to beat good teams like Air Force.
And having had multiple quarterbacks play for you guys this year, just what's your comfort level with, regardless of who's under center on Saturday, knowing that the offense is still going to be able to run crisply, whoever's the quarterback?
Yeah, so playing here throughout the couple years, a lot of quarterback change, and you just kind of you're at the quarterback shoulder telling them like, let's go, like you got this, and um, it's really just understanding you have a role just like the quarterback has a role in. You can either add to help in that, or you can subtract from it. So we talk about just being a liability or like an asset. So everybody's just focused on trying to be an asset, and no matter who the quarterback is, and if you have a play where you need to help the quarterback or you're not directly involved, it's all about either supporting him or um, by your active play, just doing the right thing when you're on the field.
And in Woodson, if you have a quarterback who, is has a freshman who hasn't really been part of this, just kind of what do you say to kind of calm their nerves, given how, what's at stake in this game?
There's nothing like coming in a game and just getting those first few snaps at quarterbacks. It's very stressful, but I remember this past Saturday against Charlotte, like I just remember just telling Braxton, like, you're good. Like, I mean, this is what you're built for, and you wouldn't be here if you weren't built for it. So I mean, he's a great player, and any young guys that are playing, you don't make it bigger than what it actually is. just kind of tell them like you got it, like you're good, and let's get ready to play. Like it's just you don't want to make it seem like this big deal, or they'll be thinking, oh, so it's just kind of just calm down and just say, hey, like you got this. Like I've seen you play, I've seen you practice, so.
And Paul Johnson and Roger Staubach are going to be, at the game in honor. Just what's kind of the privilege of being able to play in front of those guys, especially Roger Staubach, the guy in Naval Academy football.
Yeah, hopefully we can go out there and show them that, the Navy offense has changed a lot, but it's changed for the better, and we're able to do some different things on offense, and hopefully, they'll be excited watching the game, seeing us do some good stuff out there, some different stuff maybe from what they're used to.
Thank you, Jay.
Thank you.
Flags.
Well, Jayden, you referenced not having beaten Air Force during your time here at the Academy. What has to happen for Navy to get over the hump and finally beat this opponent?
We have to not make mistakes. When you look at Air Force and the Army games, a lot of times those games come down to, who makes the fewest mistakes and who executes better. Each possession is a valuable possession, especially with Air Force, how they, try to run the ball a lot. They get a lot of yards on offense, so they're going to try to grind us out. So it's all about how we can play complementary football. When offense is on the field, like it's imperative that we don't have any turnovers or self-inflicted wounds like penalties, and we just execute our offense at the highest level that we've had all season. And that's just going to take a lot of confidence and just a lot of, preparation. And then on defense, we have to compliment them. So if they get a stop, we got to help them. Hopefully they can get enough stops so we can, help them. So that's just how it goes. Just need to be able to bounce it back and forth and not have it be one-sided.
So, it's kind of been a stop and start for the offense. You showed some things against Memphis, and then you take a step backwards. Then you have another game where you put up a good amount of yards, and then last week was kind of a step backwards. What has to happen for the offense to gain some consistency and really start, because you're not consistently putting together long drives, the type of which Navy is known for.
Yeah, it all starts, like I said, with execution, and having multiple quarterbacks. It kind of changes the dynamic of how you do that. All the quarterbacks that we've had play so far, Blake, Ty, Braxton, they're all different players. They all have different tangibles and abilities. So you don't just call one play and expect them all to run it the same way. So it's been difficult having, three different quarterbacks. And we've had it over the years, these past years I've been here, and trying to run plays so they can, do them to the best of their ability and also complement other guys on the offense. So I think that's the really big part is, having a quarterback, who's going to be the quarterback. And then once you have that, it's like, okay, we're going with the guy. Then, what can we do to display his abilities the best and help him get the ball to other playmakers the best. And I think that's what's been the reason why our offense has kind of been hot and cold in some areas sometimes when you just have a rotation of quarterbacks. It's hard to kind of get in a rhythm, as you've seen this past Saturday. And then once we came out the second half, we were able to, draw some things up and have some success.
Well, you mentioned the mistakes. How do you eliminate these dead ball penalties? And it's one thing when an offensive lineman jumps off sides, but when you're having wide receivers do it, that can't happen.
Yeah. It's easier said than done. It takes a lot of just discipline. And that just comes within practice. Sometimes in practice we might not emphasize certain things as much. So it's definitely been a talking point going into the week of, reducing those self-inflicted wounds like holding calls, false starts, and we'll get it right. We always go back and correct things like we're supposed to, so we'll get it right.
Thanks.
Pete.
Jayden, I mean, you guys have, to the point you were just speaking of, you guys have essentially had 5 different quarterbacks from heading into the spring through game 6 of this season. How difficult is that on everyone, not just you all as wide receivers, but on everyone? And I'm talking about, Coach Chesnut in terms of calling plays, when there is that much disruption at the most important position, literally in the sport of football.
Yeah, it's definitely, when you think about offense, the first thing you think about is the quarterback. And the quarterback has to be the one that essentially runs the show. And when you have different quarterbacks constantly, coming in, or there's injuries, it's going to look different in how the show is ran. And as a coach, you kind of want to make sure that those guys are confident in their play and they're not questioning themselves. And there's certain things that coaches have to do to do that and tailor kind of the game plan to them. And of course, they got to be able to step outside their comfort zone a little bit and run some different things. But all of our quarterbacks that have played or that have practiced, like, they all have different skills, and you try to find ways that they can have plays to where it's like, okay, they're going to be really successful if they do that. And then on the other side of it, you want them to have that command, and that's kind of like not really something the coaches can do, but as players, we just support any quarterback that comes in. There's no bad blood or anything, or one favoritism towards a certain quarterback. You just in practice, we're always getting balls thrown to us by different quarterbacks, and there's different quarterbacks rotating through. So we're all just getting reps, just trying to play the best for when game time comes. But it's all about supporting whoever is playing, and from the coaches and the players.
You're a wide receiver. You catch the football. Does the ball arrive to you like the rocket launcher it looks like coming out of Braxton Woodson's hand?
Yeah, it's different from every quarterback, and that's one of the it's like a blessing and a curse. You'll have a quarterback where they'll have some touch on it. Might not be as accurate sometimes, but it has a touch on it. And then you have quarterbacks that are very accurate, but when they throw it, it's like 100 miles per hour. So it definitely is kind of like it's something you got to get reps with, early on. And having Ty throughout the years, when he throws a ball to me, it's like second nature. Having Braxton, it's kind of a little different coming out. But we've had a lot of practice this season, so it shouldn't be that much different. Just one of those things where you got to get in at practice and kind of get those reps.
Last week's game plan called for 14, 15 passes in the game. As a wide receiver, in a small way, kind of excited that the coaching staff feels, hey, they've got confidence in you guys as an offense to execute pass plays that many times, and maybe there's some more opportunities individually to affect the game now, potentially down the road here for you guys, as you see how important one big pass play this past week meant to getting that game going.
Yeah, that's something Coach Chesnut emphasized early, how he wanted to call more shots where he saw that best, and that's something we've been doing more. And it's cool that we can have those opportunities. And as a receiver here, you're obviously expected to be an elite blocker. So it also gives you something else to work on at practice, where you're not just working on blocking all the time. So okay, we got to be able to run routes and catch the ball, which can be a little difficult when you're focused more on, okay, how can we fit this up for the blocking. So it's another thing in practice where you got to focus, like, you know, when we're doing certain periods, you know, we got to rep certain things for the passing. So when we get to the game, it's like we've been there before. But it's definitely been great that, you know, we're being considered like more in like the passing game, and it opens up our offense more so that we can, you know, do a host of things like run the ball and then spread it out, and it like works all together.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Right, we'll make another trip around. Scott Wyckoff.
Jayden, what's the dynamic been like for you and Will, having lost your two other captains to injury? I know they're still around, but have you guys had to kind of change your role a little bit as captains, taking on some of that?
You know, it changes it in a way. It's like when somebody isn't playing, you kind of don't get that leadership side of things. So, you know, our other two captains are not able to show leadership on the field as much. But, you know, we do have to be out when we're actually out there on the field. We have to display like a different type of leadership. Whereas, you know, when you're not on the field, it's more administrative and, you know, more things dealing with like the military and the school part. But since like we're the ones that are healthy and playing, we have to be, you know, leaders on the field more, and showing, you know, other players the standard, and just being more vocal.
Thank you.
Thank you.
You know, I think he must have had to go. I know he was at Maryland Basketball Media Day as well. Wags.
Well, Jayden, I mean, obviously a huge game. I mean, these service academy games are always very tense. Air Force is putting up a lot of points. They're really rolling offensively. They lead the nation in something like 8 offensive categories. Your offense has to be prepared to score some points if it turns out you need to outscore Air Force. Can you talk about that?
Yeah. So Air Force, they definitely score a lot of points. And I mean, our defense, they have the ability to shut people out. So, you know, we're gonna have to score points, and it's gonna be a game where Air Force and like us, we're gonna have to come out there and play to the best of our abilities. It's not just gonna be a gimme that Air Force is gonna come out and score a lot of points, just as when we come out, like Air Force obviously isn't just gonna let us score points. So I think that kind of comes in, you know, you look at last year, you know, Air Force scored a lot of points last year. You know, and it was not a really high scoring game. So it's just going to come down to, like I said, in those possessions, you know, who's going to execute the best. Because there's probably going to be drives where they go, you know, might go all the way down the field and we get a stop. So it's going to come down to when we have those long drives, when they have those long drives, you know, who's going to get the stop, and then who's going to, you know, capitalize. We're going to have to play to our best of our ability. And if we have to put up 30 points, fine. If we win by, you know, a field goal or whatever. But it's just going to come down to who executes the best.
Well, so the previous 2 games with Air Force, the offense hasn't done a whole lot. Do you feel it's a lot on your shoulders to operate and produce points?
I wouldn't say it's a lot on our shoulders. Like, because every week it's like an emphasis to, you know, just play to the best of our ability, and whatever we do in practice and however we prepare for that week, that's going to be the byproduct. So we never feel like it's just like ultimate pressure. We just feel as we got to clean up mistakes, and hopefully with the mistakes that we clean up and how we prepare, that, you know, we're able to go out there and score points. We never try to like press or do too much. You just kind of go out there and play, because once you start pressing, that's when you start making mistakes. So we just play our game and run our offense how we are practicing it, and hopefully, you know, that can get us a win. Not too worried on how many points we score, because you know, you could score 47 points. It doesn't matter unless there's a win at the end of the game. So
Thanks, Jayden.
thank you.
Pete.
Jayden, in theory, when the service academies play each other, there is a familiarity, unlike when you play a lot of other schools. Do you see less busts by the defense when you play against the service academies, or is that just kind of a myth?
You do see less bust, and I think it's because we run similar offense, and it hasn't not much has changed over the years. I guess you could say that. It's pretty consistent of what's kind of going to be ran. That's what's going to be interesting this year. I mean, we have a new offensive coordinator, so it'll be interesting to see if how they play us. So generally, like I said, I feel like a lot of the players are more locked in for this week, and you kind of approach this week differently. You're not playing your traditional shotgun teams. They're gonna run the ball, and it's something that our military academies they pride themselves on is stopping the run. So there generally is less bust just because of certain focus areas. You're not focused on a wide range of things. You're kind of focused on how you can be good at what you need to be good at instead of trying to prepare for a bunch of the teams we play. They might have new coordinators, a lot of transfers. The service academies, it's pretty consistent. Not much is changing throughout the years. Maybe the offense a little bit from I know Army changed their offense, but Air Force generally has stayed consistent in how they run their offense. But it'll be interesting to see how they handle our wrinkles we put in on offense.
Yeah, you're a player. Is momentum real from game to game, winning 2 in a row? Is it real momentum going into this game, or is it literally compartmentalized week by week? But do you feel a greater sense of momentum having won 2 in a row, maybe a greater sense of confidence as a group with all the adversity you've had at quarterback and still been able to find a way now to persevere a little bit?
Yeah, so we do have some momentum, and I will say that it's a both you compartmentalize it, but you use what the good things that came from those wins, and you carry it forward, and the stuff that you want to clean up, you kind of leave that behind so that you can do better for the next time. So it's good to celebrate the win, and but once you win, you kind of move on into the next week, and then use the stuff from the win, the success from the win, and use that as confidence going into the next week. So that's how I kind of feel it. Whenever we have wins, it's okay, we know we can do it. Now let's clean this stuff up, and not just be comfortable with the performance we put on just because we won. And that's how we've kind of carried it. Is you celebrate the win, you celebrate the good parts, but let's just go get better every day. We kind of that's our mantra is just every day get better, want to know every day. So
final one for me, with a lot of younger players making contributions right now, as a leader, as one of the on-field captains right now, is it a case of speak about it when you see an opportunity, or do you have to emphasize to younger players like Eli, like Alex, who are really getting their first opportunities in a Commander-Chiefs game to make an impact, where you just try to make sure that this week is just as normal week as possible for them, to make sure they don't try to put too much on their shoulders and on their plates this week, knowing that the marquee pretty much sells itself this week?
Yeah. So you don't, like I said, like I was saying with Braxton, you don't ever want to, press too much. Tell player, you got to do this, you got to do that. Every week, you're playing the game that you've been playing ever since you were young. And I know out there on the field, like, and although it's Air Force Week, like I'm still going to be the same, Jayden. I'm still going to go out there and I'm going to practice hard, like we've always practiced. And I think that sometimes not so much during practice, but I will say when you get to the game, players kind of think they have to do more than what they've been doing recently, and that's when it comes down to just understand it's a team game. And yes, when your number is called, you do have to make that play, but it's not any different from any previous games that we've won, because all these teams are good. They all have good players, but it just comes down to winning your one-on-one battle, and you have to play really hard and really well to win that one-on-one battle, but it doesn't have to be in a way that you haven't done it before. And that's kind of how we carry practice, though. When we practice, we always just expect excellence, and that because of that, it's when we get to Air Force Week, it's not this like frantic ordeal where we're running out there trying to do or be something we're not. So that's kind of how we carry it.
Coach, how different a dynamic is it when you play a service academy team like a Air Force that knows the options so well?
No question. It's very much like going against our defense, right? And they're very similar defensive schemes. They're both, very good defensive units. And so you're absolutely, making sure that you're doing everything you can to not put yourself in a negative play situation. You want to make sure that, everything you're doing schematically is extremely sound. Not that you don't do that every week, but you really check and double check and triple check to make sure that, what you're doing is simple for the guys to go execute, but ideally complicated for the defensive, team to ascertain what we're doing all the time.
What do you like what your offense is doing right now heading into this first game for the CIC?
Well, I think what we're doing is finding a way to make plays, and we have been making progress steadily throughout the season. I think we hit a little bit of a plateau, last week and let some circumstance get to us. But I think that we're finding ways to make plays. And early on in the season, we weren't really doing that, so I think that's really encouraging. You're seeing some explosive plays and guys starting to do things more consistently.
How do you like the development of Braxton?
Oh, very excited about Braxton. We've all been waiting. We've talked a lot about him, and I think you saw flashes of why everyone's so excited about Braxton. And he's only going to get better the more experience he has.
And how cool it'd be on Saturday to know Roger Staubach is watching your offense.
Man, that's incredible. You got Roger Staubach, of course, my old coach, Coach Johnson will be there. And, it's really awesome and humbling to think that you're a part of such a special game with people like that in attendance, not to mention the midshipmen and all the brass. It's pretty awesome.
And what has Paul Johnson meant to you?
Coach has meant a lot to me. Obviously, I've learned a tremendous amount, not just about football, but life from Coach, playing for him. And he's been very kind to me through the years post playing. And the thing that I can tell you about Coach Johnson is he is incredibly loyal, and that's one of his best attributes. He is absolutely one of the best football coaches to ever coach in college football, but who he is and his loyalty to his people is really, really one of his best qualities.
Thanks, Coach. Good luck.
Yes, sir.
Dean.
Grant, obviously, regardless of who's the quarterback, just this team having used multiple quarterbacks this year, just how comfortable is the offense with running through regardless who's going to be under center on Saturday?
Yeah, obviously you want to find continuity. We've talked about it all season, and continuity comes from having a quarterback who plays the majority of the reps, and that has definitely been an issue that we've battled and through the season. I feel confident that we can put a singular game plan together based on the quarterbacks that we have available this week, that we can go out and execute and do some things that we know we need to do to win the game.
And just for Braxton specifically, a freshman playing in one of your two biggest games of the year, kind of what do you say to him? Kind of, calm his nerves maybe, because I'm sure he has some going into a game with this kind of magnitude.
No question, and he will. He told our athletic trainer, Jim Berry, that he was scared after the game last week. I can only imagine how he's going to feel going into this game, but it's really simple. You got to take it one play at a time. You've got to block out all the noise. You're just out there on a football field, white lines, and you just go play the game and focus one play at a time. You got to really block out, all the external things that really don't impact the game in your play, and just approach it one, run rep at a time.
And on the flip side, from the senior class, their last crack at beating Air Force, just the magnitude for them going into this game and kind of how they're embracing this opportunity.
Well, as you would imagine, the guys are locked in. The energy is great through yesterday's practice and meetings. I've seen a few of the guys in the building today, and you can tell everyone's very excited, obviously, for the opportunity that we have this week. So I'm looking forward to it. I'm ready to get out on the grass today. That's for sure.
Thank you, Grant.
Yes, sir.
Thanks.
Well, Coach, obviously there were some struggles offensively, that inability to sustain drives. How much is that due to having a freshman out there really for his first snaps during a game when it was still in doubt? How much did that impact the overall offense's ability to operate?
It's not all on Braxton, but it did. We had some issues that continuity will help over time that you won't see. But we have to continue to work on that. It's our job as coaches to make sure that those things don't happen, and we're working tirelessly to ensure that we're not in those situations moving forward. I was pleased with things Braxton did. There are a lot of things that we all need to continue to work on so that we can go out and sustain drives and finish drives offensively.
From a kind of an operational standpoint, one thing he did seem to struggle with was the perimeter option. He was almost stringing the play out himself with not forcing the defense to do it. How important is it to drill into Braxton how the key to turning it upfield and putting pressure on the defense, making them commit?
Incredibly important, and that's something that that obviously we work on daily, but it's a lot different when you set your hands under center in a game for the first time, and he was losing a lot of ground off the mesh. I know Coach Jasper has communicated with him on that. Of course I have as well. And the thing is you say this about football teams. A lot of times teams make their greatest improvement from game one to game two. And I would hope and expect to see that from Braxton, as he continues to get experience in games, you're going to see him grow.
So obviously Coach Newberry told us on Monday that Ty, he hopes will practice and be able to, get back and get ready. And Xavier Arline, you're probably going to rep some more. How important, no matter which direction this goes, is it to have two experienced quarterbacks available?
There's no question it's important, particularly in a game like this, guys, as I was just mentioning, there's no substitute for experience, right? Game experience, particularly in these academy games. So we're very fortunate to have both Ty and Xavier available.
The dead ball penalties. Talk to Coach Newberry again. It's just got to be maddening. I mean, you can't coach, don't jump off sides, but it keeps happening. What can you do?
Yeah, well, there's continuity with that, right? Because so much of what you do in the option world and in all of our offense, it's there's a rhythm to it, right? And we've even talked about this on our Zoom calls before. Offenses, through continuity, get into a rhythm, and that's when you're playing your best. And option football is absolutely that way, where you have to be in a rhythm and things just start clicking. So continuing to hammer away at that. Obviously, everybody being locked in and getting used to hearing the same voice, right? And then as an offensive lineman, having played it, I can remember, the quarterbacks we had, a couple quarterbacks that we had, played, that I played with at Georgia Southern, their cadence might roll out a little different. So you had to be in tune to who was at center or who was under center at the time so that you could manage that, right? And that's just something that, that guys have to get accustomed to. It requires reps and continuity there. And I feel like we're heading in a direction that'll fix it. Of course, we're doing everything we can. We're doing extra work after practice on this, because, it is truthfully the number one issue that we have to fix in order to be able to sustain drives. Because these penalties really, once they get you off schedule, they really prevent you from implementing the full game plan. You work hard on these game plans all week, and then these circumstances come up and you're chasing the chains, and it really takes you away from the core game plan that you would like to go run.
I see Pete's jumped on, so I'll pass it off to him.
Pete, are you in asking mode? I couldn't tell.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah. As long as you can hear me, okay.
We hear you great.
Great, Coach. Going back to spring and counting the quarterback you thought you'd have then, that would make 5. How big of a challenge has it been trying to coordinate an offense that essentially you've now had 5 different quarterbacks? At one point, you were calling plays for or planning for as we are 6 weeks into this season.
Well, I'd be lying if I said it wasn't an adverse situation, right? But I've always looked at my role as a coach as one that, our job is to do everything we can to help all of our players be the best they can possibly be. And so whoever's under center, you have to attack that to help that young man, at any position, not just quarterback, but you have to attack it in a way to help him be the best he can possibly be. And at the end of the day, it's college football. I said this to Brent Self yesterday. He kind of looked at me. He didn't really understand what I meant, but, it's a show me the baby business. Don't tell me about the labor, show me the baby. Right. And, and that's the circumstance. So I haven't really dwelled on it, quite honestly, because you can't. You have to see, where your issues might lie, and you have to go attack them. And like I said, work tirelessly to put the product out there on the field that we all want to see. And these guys are committed to that. That's one thing that I'm probably most excited about or most proud of, is the buy-in that has occurred and continue to grow amongst our players on offense through the course of this season. It's really encouraging, and it tells you where we're going to end up.
In practice, it was clear that if called upon, Braxton had the ability to make big plays in the air game for you. To see that play out in a game now, does all kind of qualify everything for you? And at the same time, though, do you have to resist the temptation of throwing it maybe 20 to 25 times, in a game, simply because it looks like the young man can clearly throw the football?
Sure. Well, again, I think that all goes back to we're going to throw it as much as we need to in order to find a way to win, right? And then the most important thing with throwing the football is passing efficiency, because throwing it and not completing it, that's not what you would like to do, So, I think that while it is very encouraging that Braxton is a very capable passer and will allow us to continue to evolve and do things offensively that are going to help us, so to answer your question, it's comforting to know that we can throw the football because of his talent. There's no question about that. And, and I think just finding that happy place of the number of passes, that allows you to win the game that you're in.
Asked Brian the same question yesterday. As you've seen this develop and more players have continued to earn playing time, the amount of team speed you all have at your disposal right now, when you're trying to plan as each week has gone by, have you been able to add more, especially knowing you've got multiple game breakers? It's not just one guy that really breaks it open for you.
Right. Absolutely. We are definitely building our game plans around our playmakers, and we are fortunate that we have several guys, and that's what makes it that much more frustrating when we get off schedule and we have to get away from the game plan, because you can't. And I told the guys this in our offensive meeting yesterday. We want to bring everything to the table and get everyone involved. So, I think once we're able to consistently go out there and play with great continuity, it's going to be a lot of fun, because these guys, there are some guys that can really be game changers for us.
Thank you.
Yes, sir.
Hey, we'll make one more trip around. Scott Wyckoff.
Coach, we had a great opportunity today to talk to Jayden Umbarger. What does Jayden mean to this offense?
Jayden is that man. He does all the blue collar work that you could ever ask of a guy, and has the best attitude about it. I mean, he is a phenomenal human being, a great teammate, and a very talented football player. You couldn't ask for better, that's for sure. And he's one of those guys that can do some things. When he gets the ball in his hands. So. Really excited about what he does for our team in all capacities. From leadership to work ethic. He's just a great example, and definitely a guy that I'm thankful to have around. That's for sure, especially being a senior.
Thanks.
Yep.
Wags.
Coach, obviously there was a little bit deer in the headlights for Braxton early on, but I'm sure he didn't expect to be pushed, forced into the game that's so early. But by the second half already, you could see a change. And then after the game, when we talked to him, I almost could see, I don't know, a sense of satisfaction. He's like, I did this. I went out there and helped this team win a game. How much growth do you think occurred in that one game? I think you may have said it last week. At some point, you just got to go out there, take the training wheels off, and go out there and do it. And he did.
Yeah, absolutely. I feel like that this was, obviously a huge moment for him, and that his confidence will only grow. His comfort, in being out there in a game will only grow the more reps he gets. It's, and I agree with you, Wags. I saw the same thing in conversation with him. I knew he was really nervous before the game Friday night, kind of even had a little, hey, it's going to be fine kind of conversation with him, and then after the game, he did. You could tell that there was a sense of satisfaction. He felt good about his experience, and understood that the areas that he needed to continue to work and improve in. So I feel like the sky's the limit for Braxton, and he's only going to get better each rep he gets.
Well, it's like my podcast buddy Keenan Reynolds says all the time, and this kind of goes along with his personality as a confident guy, is that this is the game you played your whole life and you've always been successful. Just go out there and ball. Is that the message to Braxton when he plays?
No question. He knows he's played football since, he was a little kid, and the game hasn't changed. And so just go out there and take it one play at a time and have fun.
Well, obviously something that Coach Newberry mentioned, we all noticed when was very significant, was Coach Jasper going down on the field for the second half. Can you talk about that decision and how it worked out? Because it seemed to settle Braxton.
Sure, absolutely. That was a conversation that we had really a few weeks ago, and really in regard to Blake and Braxton, and so we were ready and poised if the need arose to do that. When Braxton went in the game, I actually looked at him and said, Coach, you want to go down there now? It was in the first quarter. So, we got to halftime, and then obviously I think it was very helpful for Braxton to have Coach down there and kind of help settle him down.
Thank you, Coach.
Yes, sir.
Pete Medhurst.
Grant, one more question for me. Air Force is one of the best in the country at stop rate so far on the year. As you evaluate their defense, what makes them so tough? And we asked Jayden earlier. He said one of the things in Service Academy games is there are fewer busts by the defense just because of their discipline and familiarity, with option offense of sorts. But what has stuck out to you as to why they've been so consistently good week to week?
Well, I think Jay's spot on. The discipline of execution, they're going to be where they're supposed to be. But they have some good players. Number 7, his name is eluding me right now. I apologize, but he is an outstanding football player. Safety. They've got some really good football players to their credit, and they don't get out of position a lot. They do their jobs. So I think that obviously is a key to their success.